and welcome to the Oriire podcast, the podcast that tells African stories. I'm Ceci.
And I'm Halima. Welcome to today's episode. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the myth of Bayajida. That's a Hausa myth. And we have a guest with us. Say hi, Shamsu.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so we have Shamsudeen with us. So Shamsu, can you tell us what you remember about the myth of Bayajida, or just about the myth?
All right. Bayajidda is a household name in the northern part of Nigeria, particularly to the Hausa people. Well, we all know that we come from somewhere, we have ancestors. And even though the history of Bayajidda is somehow seen as a myth, but people believe in it because it always says that it starts with history become legend, and legend become myth. And it's hard to say if something actually happened because this is how history goes. Now, Bayajidda happens to be the ancestral father of the Hausa people of today. His story is he migrated from Baghdad. He was a Baghdadi prince who was on exile. And because of the exile, it took him to the northern part of Nigeria, where he particularly went to settle in Daura. Daura is in the present day Katsina state of Nigeria. Now, what happened was he came to this city of Daura, where at that time there existed a serpent. When I say a serpent, I mean a big snake that prevents people from getting water on a Friday. So he went to a house of an old lady because he was apparently parched and he wanted some water to drink. And the old lady told him that she's sorry she had no water for him to drink because it was a Friday, and on the Friday there was no one is allowed to go to the well. The well was called Kursugu well. No one was allowed to go there because the snake's gonna strike on anyone that goes there to fetch water on that day. He wasn't troubled by that story. Instead, he insisted that she gives him a keg to go to get some water from the well. Reluctantly, she did, and he went to the well to get water. And what happened was a battle, or should I say a struggle that ensued between Bayajidda and the serpent, which Bayajidda was victorious by cutting off the head of the serpent. Thereafter, he got the water he went to get, and he bagged the head of the serpent and went away. The next morning, it was news all town that the snake has been killed. And that was very mysterious because the people of Daura considered that snake to be sacred and has superficial powers, and that snake could not ordinarily be killed. But Bayajidda changed that narrative, and the queen of that time, named Daurama, gave a prize that anyone who killed the snake would have half of her kingdom. So people started coming, and the criteria for determining who really killed the snake was to bring the head of the snake for a compatibility test. And there were hunters in the town, and people keep showing up with different kinds of heads to show that that brave act of valor was kind of done by them. So the more the compatibility test goes on, the more it was discovered that indeed none of those who came forward killed the snake, the serpent. the serpent's name was Serki, and Serki is Hausa word for king. So you can see how the people revere the snake. They call him Serki because they consider the snake to be a king. So the old woman heard of this particular issue going on, and she approached the palace, telling them that indeed she knows the hero that killed Sarki the serpent. And the palace ordered that Bayajidda be brought to the palace to really ascertain if he was indeed the one who killed that serpent. So he was brought forward, and a compatibility test was done to ascertain if the body of the snake found and the head are compatible, and thereafter, after that, it was ascertained that indeed Bayajidda slayed Sarki, and there was this celebration all over town that a hero is in town, and the queen Daurama offered to give him half of the kingdom, and he declined. Instead, he said he wanted her to marry him. You can see how marriage is done those days. Well, I think he wanted to have her in the kingdom, because if he marries her, he gets the kingdom and he gets that's a good bargaining chip, if you ask me though.
True.
So yeah. So and she decided to marry him, even though at that time it wasn't a custom that she was allowed to get married at that time. But one way or the other, she got married to him. But there was also legend that said that when they got married, she couldn't consummate the marriage with him, because as a queen, virginity was a prize then. Yeah, that was it. I didn't make it up. So she had to remain a virgin for her to be the queen of Daura. So what happened was they got married, and she, instead of consummating the marriage, gave him a concubine. And what happened was, after some time, the concubine gave birth to a child, and the child was named in a way that suggests that he's gonna be the ruler of the Hausa Kingdom. And that got the queen jealous, that, oh, why should the child be named in a way that suggests that she's not gonna have an heir of herself, and that made her to break the custom of consummating the marriage with him, which gave her a child with Bayajidda. Now, the legend says that it's as a result of that the marriage between Bayajidda and Daurama, that the children and grandchildren of that union brought about most of the names that you hear in the cities of the northern part of Nigeria, cities like Daura, Zaria, Kano, and we have a classification to suggest there is a city called, there are 7 cities, Hausa Bakwai and the Banza Bakwai, you understand? And this is as a result of the union. The Hausa Bakwai are the lineage of Daurama the queen, that is, they are pure Hausa cities. The Banza Bakwai are the lineage of the concubine. And you can see in Hausa society right now, the kings still have wives and concubines till today. But what differentiates the child of the queen, or the child of the legitimate wives, and the child of and the children of the concubine is legitimacy. The child of a concubine it cannot be an heir to the throne, but the child of the queen, or those that are legally married to the king, can be heir to the throne. So this is the legend of Bayajidda, and if we can make sense from it, we should. But just as it is, history becomes legend and legend becomes myth, and sometimes it's so hard to ascertain if actually it did happen at a point in time in our history.
Thank you so much for that wonderful telling of the story. You actually made it sound so interesting.
Oh,
thank
you.
My first time hearing the story of the whole myth, and it was actually really fascinating. I have a few questions, but I want Halima to say not questions exactly, but questions and observations. But I want Halima to say what's, just interject first.
Yeah, that was a very interesting story. Thank you for sharing, Shamsu. But I just have one quick question. Do you think this story of Bayajida, do you think it's history or do you think it's myth? Like personally, what do you think?
Oh no, I believe it's myth because some things don't add up. But so does so many things in religion. When you are told about something, you kind of think about it. Did it really happen? But when rationalizing, I don't believe someone came from Baghdad and got that acceptance within that time. I don't even, because I'm imagining it happening right now that people could even be more receptive than those of before, you understand? Accepting someone, because if you come from Baghdad, your color is brown, of course. I don't know the language barrier, how somebody who does not speak Hausa becomes, I was even really considering what did really the people speak at that time. Because if the Hausa people find Bayajidda to be their ancestor, then I don't know, he was speaking, because the language spoken in Baghdad at that time should be Persian, right? Like Baghdad should be Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq?
Yes, I believe Baghdad is the capital of Iraq.
Yeah, Persian language, not Arabic, I think that time. The Persian language. So I was wondering how the Hausa Kingdom came to be as a result of that. But a myth is a myth, and the story is there, and it people still accept it, and it's just like the story of the Oyomesi, Are, all those things, you understand? Some stories are told and you just wonder, is it really real? But you still have to take it.
Yeah, I think your point about, myth becoming legend, history becoming legend, becoming myth was actually very, it made a lot of sense, because myths are often unbelievable, but sometimes there's an element in there of history. There might be a historical account of someone coming from somewhere, and there's an element of it that might be true, but probably not the whole story as it has been told, because it's a bit implausible, let's say. Still, it's very interesting.
Absolutely.
Also, why is it that the snake only struck on the well on Fridays? Because I remember, I think you said that it's only on Friday that the snake guarded the well. Well, do you think that that's because of the significance of Friday? Is Friday a significant day to Hausas, or?
No, actually, I don't quote me on this, but Friday has not been really significant to the Hausa people, because Hausa and Islam, because people, for now, as we are right now, Friday is very significant to most Hausa people because they are Muslims.
Exactly.
But when we're talking about Friday of that time, people of that time were not Muslims, because Islam was not even there at that point. Yes. But I believe maybe Friday was just, maybe you just pick a spontaneous day and say, okay, on so day, there is no, maybe they just have to be a day. It could have been a Monday, you understand? They just have to be a day. But perhaps maybe if I have a deeper, maybe this is something I should go check again. And if I have the opportunity of coming back here anytime, I could talk about it. But I don't think there is any, there is no any cultural significance of Friday to Hausa people, except if they are Muslims, of course, who go to the mosque. Because now it's really hard to differentiate Hausa culture and Islam. They are so interwoven that you don't know which is which.
I don't think, honestly, I just think it's a story. I don't think Friday has any
a
like
lot of people believe it's
particular
not,
or something.
it's just like a story has to be told.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's one
a
of those
story has
stories
to be
we tell,
told, especially when our grandparents sit us down while the food is on the fire, something to tell you you have a root. I believe it's not Hausa. Yoruba is there too. You understand? You have a lot, the story of Oduduwa. You understand? Coming. You understand? Sometimes you question it and say, hey, what's popping? You know? But you still have to let it go because professors have written on it and they've won awards based on what they have written, based on the research and so on. And you cannot come out of the blue and dispel it, even though you know it beats rationality.
I mean, every culture has its own myth, and myth has its purpose in culture as well. So, I mean, we tell stories to try and make sense of things, and the stories don't always make sense. And it's not even just African cultures as well. When you were talking about how he beheaded the snake, basically, I was thinking that's such a common theme in so many mythologies. Like if you think about like Greek mythology as well, they always cut the head of the snake. It's always, you know, it's kind of, there are lots of recurring themes and plots.
They find their way. So I think some things are just universal.
Yeah.
And they always like to tell stories of cunning people. And I find that like he's supposed to be altruistic, but like he is kind of cunning. When he said, you know, it was smart of him to get married to the queen so that he has the whole kingdom and not just half.
Yeah, that is a good bargaining chip. I think this is where we bring diplomacy into it. You understand? You can bargain and get the whole package, you understand, rather than getting, and because of the he became the queen's husband and invariably became king. That's it, you understand? So instead of having half of the kingdom, instead of having property, he also had power and authority. You see, it's different for you to just have property. If you have property, you will pay taxes, you understand, because you are a private citizen. But if you have power and the property, it consolidates everything together.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty dumb of them. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
What was pretty dumb? Like
for them to actually say, yes, you know, you can marry me and have my whole kingdom, even offering half the kingdom in the first place. I was like, okay, you should have offered a certain, you know, amount and be like, oh, this is what you win for beheading the snake. You actually said, I'll give you half the kingdom. Then not only did you give someone, you gave someone the whole kingdom, basically.
The whole kingdom, without knowing, without realizing.
And I'm just like, why did they make this queen dumb? Like, she should have been a smart queen.
Yeah, I know, come on. You know, well, it's just the affairs of the heart sometimes. Sometimes we think we can be rational about that, but some decisions you make when your heart is kind of in a state of emotional indecision. You can hardly think about it. Maybe after some years, that's when you realize, did I really say yes to this? But I think it's something that some decisions that we make in life, for those that maybe we could have some soft spot towards, is later you realize, did I really say yes to this or something like that? But it's something we can just
so basically the queen likes Bayajida. That's your own argument.
I mean, there are decisions and there are decisions though.
Exactly.
Like, you know, if it's like, you know, you give someone something but not a whole kingdom,
yeah.
No, he did. Hey, he didn't tell her, give me your kingdom. He said, marry me.
Yeah, I'm getting that, but she must be, I mean, she's a queen though, like she should be politically savvy enough to know what that means.
I don't think she is, because for someone to give somebody a concubine and then now realize after
she doesn't, she doesn't have any advisors.
She doesn't
have.
I think if you look at it, it's kind of like you know, some customs are not static, they change with time. Okay, she realized she couldn't lose her virginity to him, but factors influence her to change her mind that, okay, so from henceforth it means a queen could get married, you understand? It altered a custom, you understand? And maybe it will alter some other, you know, some things influence customs and culture to change. So I think that is quite, as much as we see her maybe decision not being so kind of what should we call it?
Logical.
Yes,
logical.
But sorry, thank you. Her decision not being rational or what you say, but at the end of time, if we can look at it that it was changing the custom in a way, and custom kind of change with time based on some happenings, you understand, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So in like the 7 lands that like Bayajida's children came from, like the 7 Hausa lands, are there like any historical sites in present day Nigeria?
Yeah.
Like, are there any places?
I can immediately tell you, but you know the names. Like there are places that we call, I said Hausa Bakwai and Banza Bakwai. Historic Kano is part of Hausa Bakwai. Kano, this present day Kano state.
Okay.
Zaria is, Katsina is, Daura is, and I think Sokoto is. You understand? So we have the Banzabokwe. The Banzabokwe mostly are places that, you know, people believe if you're just from the northern part of Nigeria, you are Hausa. But not everyone is Hausa in the northern part of Nigeria. And this connotation of Hausa Bokwe and Banza Bokwe really brought about somewhat tribalism, because it will be like, okay, these people are from this town, they are pure Hausa people. Banza means like Banza. When we say Banza, if I call you Banza, it means useless. One way, it doesn't suggest something good.
Yeah.
Banza. So you may just be okay if I tell you Banza Bokwe has this name that connotes that they are not really purely Hausa, you understand? So this has brought about a lot of segregation over that. So if not, because now before when you come, they will be like, you are from Banza Bakwai. I'm Hausa Bakwai, you are Banza Bakwai, you understand? So it has been this stereotype and so on and so forth. But yes, historical states, just like as I told you now, still exist regarding that, the kingdom.
Oh, nice.
So,
thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one last question because we need to wrap it up. And Emisi suggested the question. So, are there, or are you aware of currently any historical like attachments to this myth? Any historical like replicas or the well? Like, has anybody actually?
Yeah. The well. Yes, something that the well is still in existence right now.
Oh.
People go there for tourist visitation. Is a tourist attraction. Is in Daura right now. People believe that is the well. So there is something to show that but there is a well there that will dispel your mind that, okay, this wasn't really a myth. It's about when, at what point did people realize it was really the well? Who determined this is the well? Who determined it really happened? A well is there as a physical evidence that it really happened. But we can't say for real that was that the well of is that just an ordinary well that has been there for a time being or for a long time, or is it really the well Bayajidda killed the serpent? It still remains a myth.
I have a question for Ceci though. Ceci, do you think Bayajidda, like from what Shamsu has explained, do you think the story Shamsu told us now, do you think Bayajidda is a myth or a history or an urban legend?
Well, I think it is. You know, I always say that every myth has an element of history, or most likely has an element of history to it. Definitely the story, the way it is, like if I take the whole thing, is definitely a myth. I don't believe that someone killed a snake from Baghdad and became the ruler of Hausa land by simply marrying someone, and it was that simple. But I think that, you know, there's probably something that happened at that time that has made people to remember this incident and to remember like this well. And but I don't think it is quite as grand and as fairy tale-y as the myth purports, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an urban legend because I don't think the story is a myth. I feel like there's some elements of truth in the story because there's all this like, because I'm very sure in present day Nigeria, well, very sure might be a stretch, but people take these things serious. Like Shamsu was saying, there's a divide between like states like Kano and like other states and stuff like that. So I think people take like elements of this story and make it like really true. So maybe there's some truth to the story, but of course some parts are like exaggerated and not true. But
Absolutely.
Apparently there's a festival that celebrates Bayajida. It's called Gani or Maulud Festival. I don't really know. Do you know about
Maulud is a Muslim
but I don't think
festival,
it's about
so it's
Bayajidda.
Okay,
it's not about Bayajidda.
No, it doesn't at all. I don't.
Let me see, you're giving us wrong information.
Not to my knowledge, really. Not to my knowledge.
Let me see,
well,
he's giving us the wrong information. He also
to my
wrote,
knowledge,
did you see the literature essay?
It's a Muslim thing. I saw it, but I'm not in Muslim.
I don't know what he wants. Okay, so Imisi wants all the listeners to know that the Bayajida myth was meant to teach bravery, most likely, maybe to kids or whoever was listening to it. And it has some components from other fiction and other similar myths as well. And it's entertaining. Thank you for your contribution, Imisi. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So
I actually appreciate your contribution, Imisi. So
I appreciate it too, but I didn't appreciate that essay you wrote first because I don't know what we were supposed to say in the essay. Thank you so much, Shamsu. Thank you for giving us your time and telling us this myth, which has been very, very interesting to listen to.
Where can we find you? Like, do you want to see your social media handles or anything? You don't have to if you want. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you want the listeners to follow you, maybe.
Okay. I'm on Facebook as Shamsudeen Uncolonized.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Find Shamsudeen Uncolonized on Facebook.
Yeah.
Are you serious at the moment?
Why are you so shocked?
Are we off the air?
No, I'm not.
Not yet.
But that's me. That's me, Shamsudeen Uncolonized. That's my name on Facebook.
Oh, I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, now go to Shamsu, and that's Hausa for thank you, you guys.
Yeah, I'm thank back you, my mentor Lily. Always a pleasure.
I'm not his mentor, everyone.
She is really, yeah.
Yeah, so this has been an interesting episode. Thanks for listening.
Yes, guys, and you should follow us on social media where we are Oriire_Africa on Twitter and Instagram. I believe we're also on Facebook. And Oriire is spelled ORIIRE. We also have our website, oriire.com, where we post regular content, other myth stories like this. We actually have the myth of Bayajida up on the website as well. If you have any questions, any comments, you want to speak to Shamsu, or you want to come on the podcast for an episode, we would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us and message us. Also go on the website to the contact us page. That's another way to reach us. We're always available. And thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Like and subscribe.
Oh, yes.
Bye. Bye.